up, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. I'm excited to be with you today. In today's episode of our Civil Engineering Academy podcast and our YouTube channel video, we are discussing tips and advice that you specifically will want to check out looking ahead into 2021. We outline how to move from engineer to manager, the value of getting additional education, whether a MSc or an MBA is worth it to you. We also discuss how to ask for a raise, the value of your PE and FE, and all kinds of things. So if you are a civil engineer, we've tried to hit a wide spectrum of topics, of ideas and things that you might be looking at and considering in the year of 2021, and giving some advice to help you out with that. So it's a fun episode. I bring my brother Mark on to discuss all these things, and it was just fun to do. Mark brings a lot of experience to the table. I bring my own wisdom to the table, and we can just hash these topics out and share them with you. So anyway, that's what we've got. If you have any comments, leave them below. It'd be fun to hear what you are looking forward to in 2021, what your goals are, or any tips or advice that you think you might need. Leave them in the comments below, and it'd be fun to read those and also respond. So anyway, I hope you're doing well, and that interview is going to be coming right up. All right, we are up and live. Mark, what's going on?
Hey, just enjoying hanging out with you, Isaac, as always.
Awesome. So I'm excited to have you back on today. We're into 2021 already. Can't believe how fast a year has flown by.
Yeah, which looking back is probably a good thing, right?
Yeah.
2020 wasn't very kind to us.
Yeah, let's leave that one behind us.
Yeah.
I remember when that New Year came, everyone was so excited because it was 2020, and it just turned out to be a mess, I guess.
Yeah, it was a bummer.
Here's to 2021. So I thought it would be fun in looking at 2021. I talked about this being a new year and maybe even a new you, and just discuss some of the ideas that maybe a lot of civil engineers have on their mind right now in improving themselves. And so looking at 2021, I have a list of ideas that I think it would be fun to discuss together and give some tips and advice, no matter which stage civil engineers are finding themselves on this journey. So
Okay.
The first one I thought about is a new career path. So some civil engineers don't like either where they're at, or they just want something new. So what's some advice you'd have for these guys?
Yeah, and that's you know what, that can be kind of a scary thing, especially if you've been down a career path for some years and you've kind of developed your skills in a certain area, and you've developed a reputation, a little bit of a rapport with your employer. That can be a kind of a scary thing. So it takes I would say, first of all, if you recognize that you're not on the career path that you like, it takes some courage, right, to even explore that. But what you got to do is reassess kind of your interests, your skills, your current level of education, and then if you're someone that's been out in the workforce for quite a few years, you probably have a little better feel for job options that maybe align with your interests a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you think? Rather than somebody who's a little bit newer to a particular industry.
Do you know anybody that's made a complete career pivot? Let's say they were in structures and all of a sudden they were just like, screw this, I want to get into transportation. Or
I have known a couple individuals that have done that, and they are those type of individuals that are very, I'll call them adaptable. They have very broad skill base. I knew a guy that he was a structural engineer. He had a degree in nuclear physics, which was kind of interesting. But that was the area that he was in. And then one day he, you know what, I don't want to do structural engineering anymore. And he just went off and he got into the transportation field, like you mentioned, which was kind of an interesting change. But his background, his education was in like nuclear physics, which was wow. So there, if you're one of those kind of individuals, pretty much do whatever you want, I guess. But
Well, there should be a warning, I guess, but there is an expectation that if you do a complete career change, you're not gonna be probably starting out at
No,
engineer or manager or anything like that.
no. You need to expect to probably start at an entry level, which can come at a financial cost, right? Entry level positions do not yield as much salary as a experienced position, but and that's part of where some of the courage comes in to make that jump.
Okay.
Um,
So
but
that's kind of, I guess that's one mindset, right? Maybe someone's considering a complete career pivot. There's also another mindset where people just aren't maybe happy with where they're at, maybe the environment,
yeah,
get along with the
yeah.
manager.
So sometimes you may be in an industry that's it may be something you like and you enjoy, maybe the subject matter, but maybe it's just the environment that you're not doing very well in. Maybe you're the
Toxic.
people, yeah, the people that you work with, you just, despite your best efforts, you just can't get along, or maybe the organization that you're involved with doesn't align with your values per se. Those kind of things I think are easily remedied, or more easily remedied, because you're just switching from maybe working for one company to another, right?
Yeah.
Kind of a lateral move if you need to make it.
And I think those positions might be easier because you've already built maybe a network of people or you've interacted with people in the same space or people
Yes.
know who you are. And it's easy to just say, hey, you guys got any openings over there? You guys hiring? And
Yeah.
there you go.
So those lateral moves are a lot easier. But if you're trying to make like an absolute, one, you're flipping completely around. You need to do a little research, I think, before you jump off that cliff. Um, and I would suggest that you get up close and personal with those options that you're considering. It's one thing to sit back and look at different career options from a distance, and it's a completely another thing to get kind of involved, talk to people that actually do that job that you're interested in. Maybe you shadow that person for a little bit, you work your networks that you've got, um, and
How
see
many
if you,
hours you really working over there?
yeah, exactly. What's it really like, and
Three,
hey,
4 days.
would you mind if I just came by and just kind of watched what you do for a little bit? Obviously you'd have to have a relationship with a person to be able to do some of those things, but those are always good ideas, because ultimately if you're switching completely in career, you're trying to rebrand yourself, right? um, the longer you're in a particular career path, you kind of get branded as that's your level of expertise, that's your area of expertise, and now you're going to change and go in a different direction. You're really working on kind of rebranding yourself.
Yeah, I look at my own life and my own career path. I've been in the utility world since I've graduated. And before that, I was in water resources and did a little environmental engineering. And
Yeah.
now I've been in the utility world. I got into transmission design. I did that for like a number of years, and now they've moved me into more of a project management type of role. And I had a hard time making that title switch. I don't know why. I didn't want to be labeled as a project manager. I wanted to be an engineer
You
still.
felt like you were resigning that engineer title.
Yeah, because you kind of feel like you're putting it away.
Right.
And there's some truth to that because, you still get involved in some level, but it's not the same level. But yeah,
Yeah.
those are all things to look at and consider.
Yeah,
That's
it's
why
true. And
you're
that's
branded. So I'm a utility man.
all right. Well, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just
Yeah.
depends on what you want to do, but that's definitely true. The higher you get up into management, the less you're involved in kind of the actual engineering, right? The actual calculations, the actual layout, the actual design work. You get away from that, and some people don't like that, but
That's true.
yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully, if you are in those shoes where you're deciding on either a new career path to take or pivoting or jumping ship and moving to a lateral position, hopefully those tips give you something to chew on and think about in your future this year. So another one I thought about, most engineers should have a goal, everyone should actually, is a goal to pass your exams this year. The first one I've listed obviously is the PE, but you got to get your FE, and that's the first step. So, um, these exams change all the time, specs get updated. People might be wondering when the best time to take it is. And my advice is the best time is now. Like, just start. So we're in January. If you're preparing for an exam for the PE in April, now's the time to start studying. If you need help, go check out our course, civilpereviewcourse.com. And we've also got an FE course, which is a year, obviously that's year round. So if you need help with that, jump to civilfereviewcourse.com and make sure you take advantage of that. Mark and I helped create that, package that guy together. And all these courses give you tons of stuff. So you get the exams, you get the modules, you get practice problems, really everything you need. So, Mark, why don't you talk about the value of passing these, why it should be a goal if you haven't had it yet?
Well, I think in my own career, I passed the PE clear back in 2002. And I just remember,
Old.
I am old. Yes, Isaac speaks truth. But I just remember that. I mean, first of all, obviously the feeling of accomplishment and having done that, the first thing, but then that next level of respect and consideration that I got where I worked, it was great. And it really directed me for the rest of my career into, what I'm doing now. That credential has, it's been invaluable to have that credential. And
I remember when
in
you
opening doors.
Stamping drawings. I do remember that.
Yes. And that was a little bit of an intimidating thing for me, because it was like, I'm responsible for this design, and in my line of work, as you know, Isaac, with what I design, there's some life safety, in what I do. And so I have to make sure that it's right, because people's lives are at risk if something is wrong.
You need it.
Yeah. And so it kind of propelled me into that additional responsibility, but then the compensation goes up with all that as well. So,
yep. So guys, we're preaching to the choir probably, but if you haven't got it on your list to pass, do it. The PE is going to be changing to computer-based in 2022. If you haven't listened to a podcast I did with the NCES director of exams, go check that out, because we detail that because of COVID, they've accelerated that schedule. The FE is already year-round, so get these exams under your belt. It's easier to probably do it when you're closer out of school, but really any time is a good time to do it. And in fact, I've got lots of people reach out to me who are in their 60s passing the PE exam.
No way, 60s. Aren't you brain dead by 60?
I guess not. Still kicking, still going.
That's awesome.
But you
That's
can see that it's like a personal, achievement. You got to do it. It's good.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about a next one that maybe you have on your mind, and that is to learn something new this year in 2021. Why do we want to do this, Mark?
Well, so if you're a licensed engineer, you know that you're obligated to do continuing education, right? Depending on the state where you're licensed, there's different requirements for that. But use that as an opportunity to kind of stay up on current industry trends and the direction of the industry that you're in. It's easy. I think it's easy to go out there and find, there's so many offerings, right, Isaac, on, personal development hours. You can go online, there's so many different offerings these days for professional development hours and
with COVID, most of those are online, right? People are
that's true. And hopefully that trend changes. because I really think the personal instruction has some value. I mean, the online stuff definitely has a place, but I think the personal instruction has some value because you're able to network with people that are in your industry, and but use that opportunity or that requirement to pursue that continuing education as an opportunity to stay up on top of things. Don't, there's some fluff courses, I'll call them, that are just kind of general courses that'll get you your credits, your continuing education units, your CEUs, but maybe it's not, and maybe those are easier, but I would advise somebody to go after the things that are going to actually enhance your knowledge base and the particular discipline that you're in. Use that as an opportunity to enhance your knowledge base. Don't just waste it.
Yeah, and right now we're in Utah, and I know that's coming up. I just got a notice, so I got to start filling in the gaps.
Yeah, you got to have 30 every 2 years. We got to have 30 of them, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's time. So that's great. Get some continuing education, but more specifically directed in the field that you're in.
Yeah, and what's cool is every field in civil engineering. I mean, there's a depth that can be explored there. That's maybe next level. I in my career, as you know, Isaac, I deal with a lot of structural concrete, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I could go and just, concrete's concrete, but if I take it to the next level, I can start getting into the chemistry, right? And the mix design and how that reacts and the placeability of the concrete. There's just those next levels that you can take your
high performance,
your discipline. Yeah. And it just enhances your knowledge base and your value as a civil engineer.
That's great. Never stop learning.
Yeah.
I'd also tack on that don't hesitate to learn other skills, even outside of civil engineering. I myself have learned a lot of things outside of it that have helped enhance my own career in life. And if you have a desire to learn other things as well, now's a good time to do that. So don't hesitate to keep learning.
And what's cool about working in your industry, in your environment, and coupling that with more formal education, like a classroom setting, is you're kind of getting the best of both worlds, right? The best type of education is the type that's, traditional formal education where you're learning theory, but then when it's coupled with actual real life experience, that's when it like really hits home and becomes something valuable. And so that's what you're trying to do with your continuing education, trying to couple that with your work experience.
Well, if you got any conferences you're heading to, you send them my way because I need to attend some.
Okay.
Let's talk about this. One of the things we discussed in learning something new is the value of a degree. And a lot of people have on their mind earning a master's degree, whether that's a master's of science, so an MSc, or going the MBA route and earning that coupled with your bachelor's in engineering. So what's the value of getting a master's degree? What if somebody's confused about which path they want to take? What's some advice you have with that?
Well, my advice with that is I think it's particular to the industry that you're in. I think if you are in a purely design environment, if you're more of a design firm employee, then I think the MS degree is something that's probably a little more valued in that environment. Whereas I think if you're in a construction or manufacturing or an industry firm that they may be manufacturing products that are used out in the market, construction, whatever the industry happens to be. Those career paths, I think, value the MBA a little bit more. And I think if you're going for a graduate degree, that's probably the direction you should go in. That's my experience.
Is that you have an MBA degree?
Yeah.
And you're probably more involved in design work.
Well,
I got an MSc degree, and I'm more involved in the management.
yeah, yeah, it's weird how that happens. And some people get both. I mean, I work with guys in the industry that have both. In fact, I work with guys in design firms that have both because that's and they're more on they're more up in the principal type levels at their firms, and so they have to get involved in the business side of their operations, and so those kind of things are valued at that level. Um,
I
but
also know many universities are combining degrees, so they're combining an MBA with an MS
yeah,
degree with a few, additional
it-
courses. So,
yeah, and
and
that's something that's tailored just for us because then you're not having to make that choice. Do you know
yeah,
what universities have that
I
specifically?
definitely know that the University of Utah, which is where we both went to, started offering that. So
Okay, I didn't
might
know
be
that.
something to check out if
That's really cool. Then you don't have to make a choice. You can just do that, and you're covered.
get it done.
Get her
So
done.
I do think it is worth it. I got my master's later on in life, and the reason why I wanted to get it is because I wanted more formal education in subjects that I hadn't necessarily covered, or I felt like I could get more experience in, especially in the workplace I was in, like concrete, things of that nature. Doing transmission design, we spec out a concrete mix and that was it. But I wanted to know more, and I think
Yeah.
getting more
Well,
formal.
it's valuable to, know concepts and we get a little bit of that in like, what they call engineering economics, right? Time value of money and those kind of things. But I'm telling you, man, you get deep into the accounting and finance and those types of subjects that an MBA tends to push you into. And it really opens your eyes to the business side of things, rather than just the technical side of things that you've been exposed to your whole academic career. And I, yeah, it was just good because now when business decisions are made, um, you kind of know the reason behind most of those things. You know what a balance sheet is. You know what when if you're a project manager type guy in civil engineering, how to do your job costing, for projects and track costs and those kind of things that an MBA helps you
Forecast,
know.
all that fun stuff.
Yep.
Well, I think that's good. So get out there, learn something new. I mean, I could throw in this category as well, learning some soft skills, learning how to become a better public speaker, learning how to become a better writer. All of those things kind of fall into this category. So get out there and learn something new is good advice for 2021.
Yep.
Another tip or another piece that somebody might have on their mind this year is to ask for a raise.
Oh, that's scary.
Oh yeah. How do we? So we want a little bit more income. We worked to death in 2020 because we kept hearing that we had to do more with less, and all of a sudden we realized our company maybe was still doing just fine, and we got screwed on our raise this year. Maybe next year we could get a better one. So
Uh,
what are some tips for making a case on a raise?
well, I think the first thing you need to do is know yourself, um, know your manager, your direct supervisor, right? His personality, what he values, what his goals are. And you need to know the company you work for. Every company has a culture. They have an overall, we'll say, mission statement, if you want to call it that. They've got an overall direction that they want to go in, and just make sure that you're getting prepared to communicate how your personal career goals are in line with that overall company goal and the company's future and how they see themselves growing. If they're in growth mode and they're trying to grow in the market, or maybe they're trying to take over different segments in the market, whatever their goals are, make sure your career goals are kind of in line with those things, or at least be able to express how they are in line with those things before you go in and ask for your raise.
So, yeah, my thoughts on this are a lot of people I know that have gone in and asked for a raise, even though that might be really scary. They've kind of built, I wouldn't say a portfolio, but they've got a case. They've done their homework. They know what if they're going to try to go from maybe a career engineer to a senior level engineer. They've looked at the job description, or maybe they've seen a posting of that job before, and it lists all of the requirements to become a senior engineer. And some of these people have kept those descriptions, and then over the course of maybe the year they've been working, they highlight everything that they've done personally. And a lot of times those, when they've gone in and asked for a raise, they go in and say, look, I'm doing I'm doing everything that a senior engineer is doing based on what you would hire for.
Right.
And they kind of make a case for that.
Right.
That might be an idea.
Yeah. Well, that's asking for more than a raise. It's asking for a promotion, which has a raise that comes with it. If you can explain to your manager, your supervisor, that, hey, I meet all the qualifications for this position, that's a great way to approach it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing to do. I like that. Yeah, you highlight your successes that you've had, highlight major projects that you've done, and if you can get on board with your manager's personality and how they communicate. I don't think it's very hard to communicate a raise to them if you guys are kind of on the same wavelength and talking to each other. And
Right.
he has sat down with you probably once or twice a year to go over your own
Yeah.
stuff. So,
And you know what's sad, Isaac, is most of the time when you actually get a raise, it's because you probably have an offer from another firm to go work for them for more money. That's usually how it happens, huh?
yes, that's the truth. Yeah.
That's usually, yeah.
That
Yeah. You're like, hey, XYZ company is going to offer me X amount, and think about going over there. And then all of a sudden your manager realizes how valuable you are.
it's pretty sad, but it's true. A lot of times in the company that you're in, a lot of people won't pull a trigger on a promotion or a raise unless you have an offer in hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
Yeah.
can be a scary move, because then you've got to tell somebody where you're headed.
Right. And that can be perceived as a little bit of, disloyalty to the company and maybe the team that you're involved with, So,
Yeah.
but
I can speak from personal experience, and the raises that I've had have been when I've had an offer,
all right.
and then trying to get another raise or promotion. But I was committed. You have to be committed to being, taking that next step. And if you are, then you can reevaluate your options if your current company does come back and say, yeah, we do want you. We can't go as high as them, but this is what we can do. And then you're back to kind of reevaluating
Right.
what you want to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's good advice. That is the truth, though.
Yeah. That's usually how it happens. But
Okay, good advice. Let's talk about maybe an engineer that wants to move into a management position, and we maybe discussed some of these ideas already. But what if someone's hungry to move from engineer to manager? What would you advise for them?
well, there's lots of things that somebody uses or skill sets that they develop on their way to being a leader, right? That's essentially what we're talking about. Excuse me, is being a leader, right? And so that means getting people to want to follow you. So you need to have those attributes, those skill sets that get people to recognize that you're a leader, and they want to follow you because you got some good things going on. So there's some things that I would throw out there about, for sure you want to stay humble, but be hungry, be passionate about what you're doing, be involved, and manage your emotions is a big one. Don't let your don't. There's lots of things in the course of a day that could get your emotions, riled up. Somebody says something you don't like, you don't agree with somebody, something that gets your temperature up or could. Usually things have a way of working themselves out once all the emotions have calmed down, and this usually happens, of course, with confrontation, and sometimes that has to happen in a work environment. Usually the best decisions are made after the emotions have calmed down and things are smoothed out a little bit that way. And so it's kind of a soft skill that you have to learn how to do. And those are the skills that I guess you get. A lot of that has to do with how you were raised and the environment that you grew up in, maybe. But
I think one of the things that really ticked me off about management is there are some managers that just aim to point a finger at people instead of finding a solution. They're always digging into who,
who can they blame?
problem. And while that might be good information, we want to know how it started so we can prevent it again.
Right.
It doesn't do anybody any good to just beat that person up.
Right. And admit your own mistakes, right? Be willing to admit your own mistakes. If you commit a mistake and you will, that happens. Everybody does it. Man, own it. Just own it. And then be understanding when others commit mistakes, and don't try to look for, pointing fingers and casting blame.
Yeah, I love it when people.
That's not constructive.
I mean, I could go on examples of like I deal with scopes of work all the time. We write scopes almost for the whole company and for projects, and we have engineers that scope projects, and we send out a scope of work to a consultant. They design this whole substation based on the scope of work, and find out that the transmission guys didn't talk to the substation guys. And now you've got an entire design in a bay that is not the right bay. Who's owning that mistake? And we dived into it and found out it was at a substation level. So it fell back on our own internal, group. And the manager was quick to admit it. And I was relieved. It just was awesome when I have a new respect when people can own their mistakes and say, you know what, we missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that garners more respect than somebody who's just trying to deflect everything and point fingers.
Right.
So that's what a leader does for sure. And then be happy for other successes. Give credit when credit is due. And then throughout the work process, you have to allow for bonding to occur with others. And that's kind of a scary word maybe for some, especially as engineers, right? I don't want to bond with anybody, but you have to let work relationships. I'm not saying you have to go out and, go fishing with the guy every weekend or whatever, but you have to let those relationships develop through the work process, right? That's what develops trust. You develop trust in others, and then you earn trust in return, right? Mm-hmm. As those relationships get developed, you have to allow those kind of things to happen.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You want to be able to develop, empathy for others, try to put yourself in their shoes and understand where they come from. Obviously, we've talked about this already, but you're continually trying to gain experience and knowledge. You got to try to be the expert in your field. Be a teacher. That's another good way to kind of solidify your knowledge base is teach. Be a mentor. Teach those guys that are maybe younger in your industry that are coming up. Don't be afraid to impart your knowledge and help them, because it only enhances your career and your ability to be a leader. The other thing, Isaac, micromanaging, right? That's a tough thing that I think some people naturally are inclined to do that. And I struggle with that sometimes because I don't think things can be done correctly unless I do them myself, right? I constantly battle that. And so I get into a little bit of micromanaging sometimes to make sure people are doing the right things. But you can't get into that cycle. Not only is it exhausting as a manager, but you got to let people do their job. Sometimes they're going to do it differently than you do, but if the outcome is adequate, is the same, then it's good. So you just hold those individuals accountable for their outcomes, but just let them go about it in their way, right? Even though it may be a little different than yours.
No, I totally agree with that. I have personal experience with that one too, at work, and so I can see a huge difference between managers or directors that micromanage versus those that allow people to design, make their own mistakes, and have to own those mistakes if they come about. And I can tell it eats a manager's time up.
Yeah.
Their day is completely shot if you're micromanaging every aspect of every job that you own. So it's good to be informed, obviously, but I think the more you can allow people to grow is a better option for you. So
Yep.
good tips. Anything else?
Yeah, I would just mention here a couple last things. If you want to be a manager, is learn to recognize talent so that you can build talented teams, people that are surrounding you that are talented, and that kind of comes along too as you're building trust and these bonds with people as you're completing work assignments and projects together. But learn to recognize talent. Who's got what talent? What aptitudes do they have? And try to structure your teams accordingly. Um, Public speaker, you know, there are times and communication, clear communication. Sometimes having clear communication is a little bit scary, but that's something that you need to learn how to do. And clear communication can sometimes include some confrontation, right? Sometimes there's uncomfortable things that you need to talk about. You have to get good at having a little bit of confrontation sometimes and talking about those things that may be a little uncomfortable, maybe identifying something that somebody's done wrong, or maybe you're pointing out shortcoming, or offering a little bit of criticism in some lights. But
I've noticed with confrontation, it might really suck when you're first starting out as a manager. When I was thrown in as a supervisor, I had to I had to get with the guy. He no longer works at the company, so I think this is okay. But
yeah,
my first week as a supervisor, I was thrown into a confrontation with an employee um, that had to get tested for drug and alcohol and didn't pass, and it just kind of snowballed from there. But that was my first week as a supervisor, and that was rough.
yeah,
But I've noticed in my current position, there's confrontation. Just it seems to be very frequent, and I will say, like, it is difficult, but the more that you have to deal with the confrontation, like, it does get easier because you're quicker to get the confrontation over with. Hey,
yeah.
we've got a problem here and we need to fix
Let's
this. We need
fix
to
it.
look at,
And
what's your
and quite
this.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I mean those confrontations, or the adversarial situation that may come up. Sometimes those are the biggest bond building moments that you can have with a colleague or a teammate at your office. I've had built some relationships with people that I've had some huge conflicts with, but at the end of it, we come out with a better relationship in the long run because we've kind of been through the trenches together and have forged that little bit of a bond because we worked through that adversity together, and so it can be a positive on the other end.
There's a book I remember I read called Crucial. There's one called Crucial Confrontations.
Yeah,
There's also one called Crucial Conversations, but both of them are very good if anyone's interested in checking those out. But don't be afraid of it. It's just going to come up naturally anyway.
yeah,
Um, and the sooner you talk and get it over with, the smoother things will be. So
Yeah. So as a manager, you got to get used to dealing with that stuff and learn how to handle it. Yeah.
good. Hey, I think we've nailed quite a few things for people to look forward to in 2021. If you fall into any one of these categories, then there's definitely a tip for you heading into the new year. So, Mark, appreciate you jumping on. That was
You
really
bet.
appreciate your tips
Always
and
always
advice.
a good time.
Mark brings the experience to the company.
Yeah, I'm the old man in the conversation.
All good. We'll have you on again. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
See ya.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview with my brother Mark on some advice and tips looking ahead into 2021. It's going to be an exciting year. I hope we are moving into this year with an enthusiasm for it, because 2020 was, kind of a dumpster dive. There's still some things to be grateful for, obviously, but looking ahead into 2021, it's going to be an exciting time. So I hope you are motivated and excited to make the most out of your career and your life and become the professional engineer that you want to be. If you have any other things that you need help with, go check out our site at civilengineeringacademy.com. If you need a review course, go check out civilpereviewcourse.com. If you need help with the FE, go check out civilFEreviewcourse.com. And you know what? Hang out on our channel here. We got tons of free stuff here for you to check out as well. So anyway, I hope all of this helped, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, you know what? Sometimes you just need a massive drink, some bang. Get you going in the day. You know what I'm talking about. Bye.